RFK Jr. and Super PAC sue Meta, claiming election interference. Mark Zuckerberg admitted a couple years ago that Facebook pressured them to censor. They're one of the most censorious. We get knocked down on Facebook all the time for no reason.
Shut the up, Tim. You spread misinformation like nobody else, dude. You are lucky to even be on YouTube.
I mean, basically, the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey.
The Biden family went to great lengths to conceal this conspiracy. Before Hunter Biden's involvement in the company were finally settled in 2016. Wait, but Shokin was ousted in 2015. Why were they settled in 2016? An audio recording.
Who flew and offered up the illegal quid pro quo in Ukraine. This is confirmed fact. The media will lie to you about it.
That's not confirmed fact, actually. It's not even close to confirmed fact.
The big news that broke last night is that Mark Zuckerberg, I almost called him Muckerberg, has admitted it. He was censoring Americans. He was, Facebook Meta was working with the FBI, and he can try and sugarcoat this all he wants. I ain't giving this guy the...
He admitted that he was censoring Americans. That literally says nothing. All social media platforms have always admitted that they censor Americans. That's not a new thing. That's not, oh, he admitted it. They have TOS. They'll ban people for things. Oh, I can't believe he admitted it.
Benefited out. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was making donations, and now he's trying to cover it up, cover his tracks, because he's just a little bit worried about Donald Trump winning. And I got to be honest. Look, in any honest sense of an election, I don't see how Donald Trump loses. Granted, the purpose of this opening segment is the shadow campaign, because I don't imagine Democrats are just going to sit back and let Donald Trump win. But aside from the big story about the manipulations from Facebook, which is beyond just the censorship of Americans relating to elections, but also COVID and the Hunter Biden laptop story, that's the stuff we know about. You think Zuckerberg's coming out and admitting the truth on, I don't know, maybe CIA whistleblowers or something like that, and the targeting of Donald Trump, the manipulation of information to accuse the president at the time of being a Russian spy? And that's, again, just the known unknowns. What about the unknown unknowns? Well, that's big news. And the story continues to develop.
Truly, if Democrats thought that he was a Russian spy, and they didn't, let's say Democrats were accusing him of being a Russian spy, but they didn't actually believe it. They didn't actually think he was a Russian spy. They didn't actually think there was any collusion. They didn't actually think all of the things that they were accusing him of were true. Let's assume that's true for a second, okay? The last thing Nancy Pelosi would have done is gone and gotten an investigator to go and investigate him and then have a hearing in front of all of America to come out with his findings and tell everybody whether or not he was guilty or innocent or whatever, right? That is not what they would have done. That makes absolutely no sense. That's just like the last thing they would have done. That's the very last thing they would have done. They would have wanted to continue accusing him of those things, but never have actually gone through any formal inquiry, never done any sort of investigation, never actually checked or gotten answers for any of their questions. They never would have done any of that. None of it. They never would have done any of it because that would have hurt their case. If it's not actually happening, they don't want somebody to prove that it's not actually happening. They want to be able to keep lying. They want to be able to keep pushing the narrative for a long period of time and just come out with small bits of information out of context and release those over and over, but never actually move forward with anything. And that's not what they did. What they did is exactly what they would do if they actually thought that it was true, which it seems they did. There were lots of things that were wrong with what it was that Trump was doing with Russia. There was lots of information to say that there was collusion. There was lots of evidence there, but there was never conclusive evidence from what I remember that said he was definitely guilty. And it wasn't for what they accused him of, though there were a bunch of bad things that he was still doing over there. And so the investigation made sense based on the information that they have, based on the evidence that was available. It made sense that they wanted to investigate him. It made sense that they thought that he was actually doing this stuff, but they were wrong. And they had to take the L in the end, and they did. And the fact that they still sit here acting like this was some shady conspiracy to slander Donald Trump when they just kind of moved on from the Russia stuff and never went back to it. It's like, what? Then why aren't they still pushing that shit? Why don't they still talk about it? Why aren't they still saying that he's a Russian spy? Why did they stop saying it and just move on? Doesn't make sense.
Here we go from Fox Business. Meta CEO admits Biden-Harris admin pressured company to censor Americans. I don't buy it. I believe that he's admitting it, but I believe that what we're actually looking at is Facebook was totally in on the take, was happy to play ball, and now that Donald Trump is about to become president, they're just a bit worried about this. But this is part of the censorship industrial complex. It's part of
Well-regulated had nothing to do with government regulation in the 1700s. That's not what I just said. I literally just explained what Anonymous Groiper. I literally just finished explaining what well-regulated mean. I didn't say anything about like government regulation. I'm talking about the fact that they are well-regulated in the fact that they are trained, that they have hierarchies, and that they are communicating with local authorities. That's what it is that they talk about with well-regulated.
the Five Eyes Spy Club, all of that stuff. All these other countries, what do you got? Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the UK, and the United States. They're all in on this game. That's why we're seeing in Europe, and this is an aside because France is in the Five Eyes, but France arrests Pavel Durov, probably pronouncing his name wrong, because this is it. If you defy the machine and the regime, they will come after you. Take a look at this. This is from the House Judiciary GOP. Mark Zuckerberg just admitted three things. Biden-Harris admin pressured Facebook to censor Americans. Facebook censored Americans. Facebook throttled the Hunter Biden laptop story. Big win for free speech.
From what I read in this, they are jumping to lots of conclusions.
This is not over. Now, I know that we did cover this last night on IRL, but there's a bit more that I want to get into pertaining to the election and how this will affect it outside of the conversation we have. I'm telling you, it's not over. On May 13th, 2024.
You know, it's really weird how everybody does this, right? They have certain authorities that they believe just wholeheartedly. They just tell them something and they just believe it, right? They just believe it. Oh, okay. And then they move on. But they act like everybody's corrupt. Everybody is in bed with the big donors and big business and this, that, and the other. Everybody's so corrupt. But oh, House Judiciary GOP said it. That's crazy. And then they just move on. Yes, if Nancy Pelosi comes out and says you know, the opposite, they won't even read it. That not only will they not debunk it, they're not even going to read it. They don't care. They're not going to believe anything that they have to say. You don't believe in the government now, Tom? This is not a government agency that's doing investigations and then coming out with findings based on facts. No. I do, if they actually have a probe that they're assigned to, or they have some sort of like assignment on like an investigation or something, then yes, of course, I'm going to believe in their findings. But when they just come out with stuff and just tell you things, no, that's been proven wrong 1,000 times. Like they do this stuff all the time where they just put information out for some sort of political W, and then yeah, but they never actually show you any facts. They never show any evidence. They never prove anything. And so here, they just make these claims and then he just moves on, right? Like the people that I listen to, the sources that I believe, these are ones who actually explain a logical thought process. They provide evidence, and the evidence actually proves the claims. They will go through a premise, conclusion sort of thought process that makes sense. Whereas these guys, they jump to conclusions a lot of times, and just like politicians in general. And so, yeah, I'm not going to believe just offhand somebody just saying something unless they're like in an authoritative position to say it.
And how this will affect it outside of the conversation we have. I'm telling you, it's not over. On May 13th, 2024, RFK Jr. and Super PAC sue Meta claiming election interference. Mark Zuckerberg admitted a couple years ago that Facebook pressured them to censor what is now known to be the true Hunter Biden laptop story and all of the dirt that came along with it.
What? What did he just say?
Over on May 13th, 2024, RFK Jr. and Super PAC sue Meta, claiming election interference. Mark Zuckerberg admitted a couple years ago that Facebook pressured them to censor what is now known to be the true Hunter Biden.
That's fucked up. I can't believe Facebook pressured Mark Zuckerberg to censor that story. Wow. Wow. Facebook. You got to stop pressuring Mark Zuckerberg so much. That's wild. Yeah, can't be doing that. I'm pretty sure what he meant to say is that the FBI was pressuring Mark Zuckerberg. I think that's what he meant to say.
Biden laptop story and all of the dirt that came along with it. And they did, with smiles on their faces. Twitter did it.
He's adding so much here. He's adding so much here. And he says with smiles on their faces, and that's not even true, because actually when we go back and look, all of them were arguing about these things. There were tons of back and forths where people were fighting over it, saying like, no, this information should be out there, that people need to see this, let them decide for themselves. And like, there were tons and tons of back and forths about this within Meta and within Twitter. And we know this. So his whole like added like, oh, and they did it with smiles on their faces. And they told them, you better or else. Like, he's just adding all of this shit that's just not true.
It as well. It, of course, was a manipulation, and we're now knowing that. But it's not stopped. Why is RFK Jr. still suing Meta for election interference if Mark Zuckerberg is truly showing remorse? Now, RFK Jr.
So when he keeps saying that they pressured them to do this, like we don't really have any evidence to know that they pressured them to do this, and that he says that it was manipulation, but we have no evidence to say that it was manipulation either. Again, from the looks of it, it just looked like Russian misinformation. There was this whole thing that lots of people use for this, where it says Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinfo. Dozens of former intel officials say. That's not really what they said. They didn't say the Biden story is Russian disinfo. And this is exactly what I was talking about earlier, is where somebody says, hey, this could be a thing. Hey, you know what? This is possible, but I'm not sure. And then everybody else runs off and says, he said that's a thing. He said it's definitely 100% a thing. He said he knows for sure. It's like, that's not what he said. That's not what he said. You're just making this up. Why are you doing this? Why? Why are you changing what they said? That's not what they said. So here, where they say Hunter Biden's story is Russian disinfo, dozens of former intel officials say, that's not true at all. More than 50 former intelligence officials signed a letter casting doubt on the prevalence of a New York Post story on former vice president's son. Wait, now this is saying that it's casting doubt, but this one says that they said it is. This one says they cast doubt. What's actually going on here? So it says more than 50 former senior intelligence officials have signed onto a letter outlining their belief that the recent disclosure of emails allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden, pictured here, has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. This is the one that's true. This is the one that actually states the facts. That part is true. All they said is it has all the classic earmarks of Russian misinformation. That's what they said. That is true. That is what happened. They didn't say it is Russian misinformation. They didn't say we know it for sure. They didn't say anything like that. They said it just has all the classic earmarks, but who knows? We don't have any, like, they never claimed to have verification. That's what I would look for if I'm somebody who's going to make the claim that they said it. I would look for them saying, we have confirmed that this is Russian misinformation, which they've done numerous times when it comes to the Russian bot farms that were happening during the 2016 election that were both helping Hillary and Trump, and were both hurting Hillary and Trump. they confirmed that those were Russian bot farms and that they were actually sending tons of bots to push out misinformation just to confuse everybody. They had confirmation on that. They didn't say they have the earmarks. They said we have confirmation. This is a thing. So but yes, they'll go back and forth on this. Where at one point they're saying they said it is Russian disinfo, and then after that they say it's that they're casting doubt on the story, and then here is the truth. In the small little text right here is where they put the truth that in a letter they outlined their belief that the recent disclosure of emails allegedly belonging to Hunter Biden, pictured here, has all the classic earmarks of Russian information operation, of a Russian information operation. That's what they said. That's it. That part is true.
One, another suit or a preliminary injunction. We have this deferred injunction. Sorry, in suppression of vaccine information censorship earlier this year. Facebook had not stopped. They're still going.
First paragraph, what did it say? More than 50 former senior intelligence officials have signed onto a letter outlining their belief that the recent disclosure of emails allegedly belonging to Joe Biden's son has all the classic earmarks of a Russian information operation. The letter, signed on Monday, centers around a batch of documents released by the New York Post last week that purports to tie the Democratic nominee to his son Hunter's business dealings. Under the banner headline, Biden's secret emails, the Post reported it was given a copy of Hunter Biden's laptop hard drive by President Donald Trump's personal lawyer, Rudy Giuliani, who said he got it from a Mac shop owner in Delaware who was also alerted the FBI. Who also alerted the FBI. Sorry. That is what Rudy Giuliani did. Is the shop owner got the laptop, he looked on it, because after 6 months of them leaving it there, he's allowed to open it up and look at the contents and keep it for himself. And so yeah, he knew that the name on it was Hunter Biden. That's another thing that makes me question this whole story, is like, okay, so the son of the president actually left all this stuff on a laptop, but he actually left it at the computer repair shop with all that stuff on it under the name Hunter Biden? You're kidding. Nobody's that dumb. Like, literally, the Secret Service would have found this shit before the shop owner did, and they would have taken off with that. No way. But nope. And so the shop owner calls Rudy Giuliani and tells him about the laptop. Giuliani flies out there, looks at everything, downloads it all onto a USB chip, and then flies out, replicates that USB chip over and over, and just keeps copying the files onto a bunch of USBs. And then he immediately starts flying out to a bunch of other news outlets saying, hey, I've got this news for you. This is, sometimes he'll say, I don't know if he said, how much is this worth to you or what? I don't know what he did. But he tried getting a bunch of outlets to report on it. All of them said no, except for the New York Post, which it's the New York Post. So. And all of them said no because, yeah, they looked at it and they were like, yeah, that just looks like misinformation, dude. No shot. I think even Fox denied it. Like, everybody was just like, no way.
And to this day, I assure you, Facebook is still the worst actor. I'm going to tell you this.
Tom, can you debunk that the FBI knew about the laptop like a year prior? I've never seen anything to even substantiate that in any way. An FBI witness testified that the FBI had Biden's original laptop. She further testified about Biden's text, his 2021 autobiography, which detailed his drug addiction, and his bank records. That doesn't make sense because even the shop owner said that after the story came out, it took about 2 weeks for the FBI to show up at his shop and take the laptop. So what is the original laptop then? The one in the shop wasn't the original laptop? It just doesn't, I don't know how that makes sense. Testimony reveals FBI employee who warned social media companies about the hack and leak operation knew Hunter Biden laptop wasn't Russian disinformation. This is the same Judiciary Committee we were talking about just a minute ago. Let's see. Trump right about Hunter's laptop from hell, though Biden claimed Russian disinformation. I think that's a book called Laptop from Hell, and it's all about the entire thing. It turns out that the laptop that was widely denounced as being used as evidence by federal prosecutors to prove the president's son lied about his drug use on a gun form. Let's see. And testimony from an FBI special agent reiterated that the FBI had the laptop in its possession in 2019 after Hunter Biden had deserted it at a repair shop. It is the same laptop that House Republicans have used in their investigation into the Biden family's shady foreign business dealings, and whether Joe Biden himself benefited from influence peddling while he was the vice president. Special counsel David Weiss has brought the gun charges as well as tax offenses charges against Hunter Biden. The Justice Department has been investigating the younger Biden for more than 5 years. Yeah, none of this talks about any sort of confirmation from it. Then last year, special counsel John Durham's damning report found that the FBI never had enough evidence to launch its investigation into the Trump campaign. That gave credence to Trump's claims of the whole thing being a hoax, much like his take about Hunter Biden's laptop from hell. We face another rematch between Trump and Biden this election. Yeah, see, that's one of the things that I wanted to look into is like we hear that the Steele dossier was a huge part of them being able to start the Russian the Russian investigation, and the Steele dossier was funded by the Hillary campaign, which she did get fined for it. She got a pretty hefty fine for doing that, but I didn't know if that was actually the point of like FISA warrants and shit like that. Yeah, I don't know. I if it's just one FBI agent over and over that's telling the same story, but nobody else has like backed up the claims, nobody else has verified it, nobody's been able to get information, like I'm gonna have trouble believing it, but it's possible. Fact check: Republicans make false, misleading claims that at first Biden impeachment inquiry hearing. Mace's false claims about supposed bribe. Mace's claims already know that the Bidens took any bribe. The claim about the bribe from Burisma is a false, unproven allegation. The FBI informant who relayed the claim to the FBI in 2020 was merely reporting something he said he had been told by Burisma. According to an internal FBI document made public by Republican Senator Chuck Grassley, FBI knew about Joe and Hunter's business dealings, laptop authenticity, and did nothing. Files. Wait, the FBI did confirm that the laptop was his. Why do you think everybody else turned around and said, no, it's been verified that it is his? How do you think everybody else verified this? It was the fucking FBI who did it. What are they talking about? FBI agent confirms authenticity of Hunter Biden's laptop. DOJ prosecutor insists on authenticity of Hunter Biden laptop. The laptop was real. DOJ confirms in new court filings. FBI agent testifies about Hunter's drug use. That's different. But yeah, it like the FBI and the DOJ confirmed that the laptop was real. So all of these people like acting like they were hiding all of this shit. It's just untrue. It's just not true. They didn't hide it. They were the ones who confirmed it. But
so we produce content on all social media platforms, principally on YouTube, and this is really amazing.
If the info on the laptop was everything it was made out to be, we would have heard way more and seen way more. That stuff's that sells news, right? So one of the reasons that I would assume like that the FBI might not come out and verify that it is his laptop is because there weren't actually things in there that were of public concern. Most of the things that we were getting were things that like he was smoking crack, that he was having sex with prostitutes, that he was working for foreign nationals and foreign oligarchs, and that he was making money in with a bunch of other countries that like, but there wasn't anything actually like damning that was actually like public interest. And so I would imagine it would be hard for the FBI to decide whether or not to come out and verify a laptop that is just being used for like fucking revenge porn and to show Hunter Biden's penis and to say who he's having sex with and like shit like that. Like it just, yeah, it didn't, I would imagine it would be pretty hard for them to verify it or not verify it. But the problem is that as soon as as soon as they start calling it Russian misinformation, now you might have to, because you can't allow like disinformation from your own government to be spread about another government. And so now, yeah, you probably have to come out and like verify that it was his. But yeah, that's a rough one.
Amazing stuff. YouTube has been taking over the podcast space. So shout out YouTube. Chill out on your automated censorship, you crackpots. It's ridiculous. iTunes has way better rules. They allow you to speak more freely. They really do. Not that they're perfect. That's why a lot of people who get banned on YouTube will put their podcasts up on iTunes. YouTube has been taken over. Now, what I'll say is we produce for everything. So we're on YouTube, we're on Spotify, we're on iTunes, we're on Facebook. We post clips to TikTok and Instagram. And in the order of censorship, the worst actors, TikTok is by far the worst actor. Rules don't even matter on TikTok. And there's nothing you can do about it because they're not an American company.
This is true. This is true. TikTok is the worst. I've talked a bunch about the fact that TikTok just takes my videos down, gives me a community guideline strike, and I never know what I did. I never know why. And I'll go and double, triple, quadruple check the videos and think there's literally nothing here that could have gotten me banned. I have no idea what happened. And yeah, they just doesn't matter. Got taken down. I appeal. Appeal rejected. Don't know what happened.
For the sort of. But there's nothing you can do about it. They censor you. They say bye. Doesn't even matter if you break the rules. They just say you are not a part of our agenda. Gone. And then basically what everyone does is they make new accounts and then and just start posting again. But that's the point. Go ahead. They'll just keep hindering you. So TikTok is the worst. Facebook and Instagram are the second worst. Then YouTube. Then iTunes and Spotify. And the best are X and Rumble. Rumble's better than X. But so, Rumble's probably the best in terms of allowing people to speak freely. But let me tell you about Facebook. Mark Zuckerberg is trying to act right now like he wishes he wasn't censoring people. Oh, heavens me. They're one of the most censorious. We get knocked down on Facebook all the time for no reason.
Shut the fuck up, Tim. You spread misinformation like nobody else, dude. You are lucky to even be on YouTube. I truly have no idea how he's on YouTube. I have absolutely no idea how he's still up on this platform. It does not make sense to me whatsoever. It's so strange that he has not been banned yet.
Yeah, it is remarkable to me that I am consistently called a milquetoast fence sitter as it pertains to this news and most stories, and we have to be careful when posting this show or any clips to Facebook. We make very little money off of Facebook ads. The platform is insanely censorious. Now, TikTok's a given. They'll ban you for no reason. You'll just be conservative. You'll say, I'm going to church.
He always uses this milquetoast fence sitter thing as his defense. He's not a milquetoast fence sitter, though. This is like a thing that this is what conservatives call him, is a milquetoast fence sitter. But nobody else calls him a milquetoast fence sitter. He's not a milquetoast fence sitter. Dude makes pretty strong claims all the time, and then right after he makes a strong claim, he backs up off of it. He does that all the time, or he'll make a very strong claim for a very long, or he'll make a milquetoast claim at first, very fence city claim at first, and then he'll go into deep details about like one of those takes. So he'll start off with something like, look, I don't know. It could be that the Hunter Biden laptop was fake news. I don't know. I have no idea. I haven't confirmed it myself, and so I can't know. And there are, lots of Republicans running around. Oh, it's real. We know it's real. The New York Post says that it's real. But who knows? Nobody's really sure. The Twitter is saying that it's Russian misinformation. We have we have all of these intelligence agencies saying that it's misinformation. So it sounds like it might be. But we have FBI agents who are confirming that they have had this laptop for a very, very long time. I've already seen the pictures on it, and those are Hunter Biden 100%, and he is doing deals in the emails that I've read. He is doing deals with China, and his father is involved, and they're calling him the big man in that. He is literally getting his father to come over and get rid of prosecutors in Ukraine to save him and his company's ass so that he doesn't get prosecuted. And this all came from the laptop. It is proven that this is legitimate, and we know for sure that this is not Russian misinformation. And everybody who says it is lying, and they are in the pockets of the Bidens. Like, that's what he does all the time. He does it over and over and over and over and over, where like he will start off with this very milquetoast claim, and then minutes later, he is saying, no, 100%. I know it's real. Okay, so this is an entire video that's an hour long that goes over everything that I just talked about. I'm trying to find a good example of
this video from 2018. CNN's Anderson Cooper only consumes Soylent. To give you some background context to this, Tim published this video at a time when there was a popular meme going around right-wing online spaces that left-wing men were consuming soy, and those soy products were transforming left-wing men into effeminate girly boys.
Now, let's talk about soy boys. What's a soy boy? Typically, soy boy refers to, male feminists and left-wing men who consume too much soy, and because soy has phytoestrogens, that makes men effeminate.
This video constitutes a pretty good microcosm of the convoluted way in which Tim does his reporting. I don't know if this is the sort of thing you'd catch listening to him on the fly, but there is no statement he makes that he doesn't end up undermining, contradicting, or completely walking back by the time he's finished speaking. For example, he starts by saying he doesn't actually believe soy feminizes men, and authoritatively quotes a scientific study to back up his position.
Soy has phytoestrogens, that makes men effeminate. But my understanding is that's actually factually incorrect. Even in high doses, we found no evidence that the estrogen-like compounds in soy called isoflavones stimulate cell growth or other markers for cancer risk in breast tissue.
Okay, so the soy thing is completely made up. Study proves this. Case closed. But then in the next sentence, Tim immediately backs away from the findings he just read out, saying, sorry, I actually don't know anything about this. I just did a quick Google search.
Well, this study, I gotta admit, it's just it's a cursor. I just did a quick Google search and pulled something up. But there's a bunch of other studies, so I recommend reading it.
Tim definitively cited that study as a credible answer to the question at hand. But just 2 seconds later, he's backtracking, diminishing what he just said, and undermining the scientific findings which he himself decided to present for this news segment. Next, Tim moves on to say that the idea of the soy boy is just a joke, and most people don't actually believe it.
I think when it comes to the idea of the soy boy,
This is what I was talking about. He goes back and forth on what it is he's claiming. Oh, yeah, sure, maybe, but I don't know. Who knows? It could be that it's totally not true, but it might be true. But nobody knows. It might be totally false. Who knows? And then he'll go into a very long, detailed explanation for why he knows for sure one or the other. And it's like, why did you just spend the entire time saying that you didn't know?
It's mostly a joke. Most people recognize that soy isn't actually turning dudes into effeminate, weirdos.
But then, in the next sentence, Tim highlights an InfoWars video from Paul Joseph Watson and says that Paul has data showing that soy does turn men into effeminate weirdos.
But I'm pretty sure Paul Joseph Watson has a video where he goes over data showing that it does.
So it's another very strange presentation of information here. Tim tells us that nobody actually believes soy feminizes men, but then hastily presents the contrary information that a YouTuber has shown with data that it does. And to fully grasp the bizarreness of the contradiction Tim is weaving here, have a closer look at the language he uses. When he says most people recognize soy doesn't feminize men, the fact that he used the verb recognize implies something about his own stance on the issue. To recognize something is to acknowledge a truth, to realize something which is already valid. So we are given the deliberate impression that, like the most people Tim talks about, he doesn't believe the soy myth to be true. But then look at his choice of language over here in the very next sentence that comes out of his mouth. Paul Joseph Watson's video argues the counterfactual narrative that soy does feminize men, something which Tim believes to be incorrect. However, despite this, Tim frames Paul not as someone claiming an opposing narrative to his own or alleging something which is false, but rather Paul showing it with data. Again, there are logical implications to the language Tim uses here. You don't describe someone as showing something with data if you know they're incorrect. It's a choice of language which demonstrates Tim ascribing legitimacy, framing Paul's video as a credible information source which he finds compelling. So, panning back out to the overall picture of what Tim has achieved with his monologue in the span of 10 seconds, he, in one moment, positions himself as someone who disbelieves the idea that soy feminizes men, to the point where this truth is so blindingly obvious that those who disagree are dismissed as being a distinct minority who nobody should concern themselves with. And then, he instantly repositions himself as someone who finds the idea that soy feminizes men perfectly legitimate, credible, and believable, with data backing it up. Near the end of Tim's video, he says that drinking soy makes you less likely to grow breasts.
The addition of high levels of dietary soy isoflavones tended to block estrogen effects in breast tissue. So I can say this: you are less likely to grow breasts if you drink soy products. apparently.
But then in the next sentence, Tim is telling viewers that he's read some stories about men drinking soy and getting estrogen effects.
There are some stories I read about guys who started consuming soy products and started getting, you know, like estrogen effects.
So drinking soy makes you less likely to grow breasts, but also Tim has heard stories of men drinking soy and getting estrogen effects, which to me sounds like they did grow breasts. Tim finally concludes his video by saying that if you consume too much soy, it may have an impact and feminize you.
And if you consume a ton of soy, although it's less potent, you're basically hitting every single receptor with a barrage nonstop. In which case, if you consume too much, it may actually have an impact.
So you might now be getting a sense of the whiplash of Tim Pool's.
So where he's talking about the whiplash here, a lot of you might look at this and say, oh, well, this is good. He's giving both sides of a story, and he's kind of presenting it in a nonpartisan way where he's just kind of telling you what the facts say and what both sides say, and he's going to allow you to come to your own conclusion. But as he said, the way that he's presenting the facts kind of shows you one side or the other, and he always finishes off with like a declarative statement that's going to tell you he believes one side is true, and this is the one that like you should believe as well. It kind of like what that means then is that you are trying to look as though you are presenting things in a nonpartisan way, in a non-biased way, but you are always going to finish off with a biased conclusion and tell people, this is what I believe. This is what's true.
Report. Boy, it's just a joke. No one believes it's scientifically true.
There's
Clarity he is capable of.
another
Volume
example
6
here as
on
well.
Upton video, which Tim referenced as a data-driven information source, is a deeply confused mix of quack science and reporting being given the same weight and Hillary Clinton is the new 2020 Democratic frontrunner. This is not a joke. Tim released this video in December 2019, 1 year ahead of the 2020 presidential election, in which, memorably, Hillary Clinton never ran as a candidate. Tim wanted to tell his audience about a theory he'd been working on.
Here's my working theory on Hillary Clinton. All of these other candidates are failing, right? Joe Biden has now lost his edge. I think they're going to say, you know, we don't have a strong enough candidate. We need a real leader. Joe Biden isn't up to it. You've seen his gaffes. Elizabeth Warren is fizzling out. We need a moderate voice. How about Hillary Clinton? I think that's the play.
So Tim's assessment is that behind closed doors, the establishment is lining up Hillary Clinton to run as the real Democratic candidate in 2020, replacing Joe Biden because he's making too many gaffes. What evidence does Tim have for believing this? Well, he highlights that Hillary Clinton is being included in 2020 election polls. Why would she be included in the polls unless the elites are trying to test her popularity to see if they can insert her into the race?
This new Harvard poll, in my opinion, is being done to see if there's a door open for Hillary because Hillary wants to run. I really do. Why would they include Hillary Clinton in this poll? She's not running. They want to know if people would support her.
Additionally, Tim reports to his followers the exact manner in which Hillary will announce her candidacy, saying it will happen ahead of the Iowa or New Hampshire primary.
And just give it a moment. Just before some, like the first primary or Iowa or New Hampshire or something, she's going to say, I didn't want to do this, but the American people need me. That's what she's going to do.
Finally, Tim describes the motivations behind the plan to insert Hillary into the race, vividly describing how mentally unwell Joe Biden is.
Joe Biden can't keep his... first of all, he doesn't know where he is. And I really mean this. It's not a gaffe at this point, right? And other people have pointed this out. Joe Biden, it is not a gaffe. When he says Iowa instead of New Hampshire and Minnesota instead of New York or whatever, that's not a gaffe, dude. He literally doesn't know where he is because he does it almost every time. And then he tries to like save face, but dude, the guy's out of it.
So at this stage, Tim has 1. Reported that he thinks the establishment are planning to run Hillary Clinton, 2. Given definitive evidence in the form of polls which include Clinton's name even though she's not running, 3. Described how and when Clinton will announce her candidacy, and 4. Ascribed the motivations behind the plan to insert her into the race. The establishment need her because Joe Biden is mentally ill. So, as a Tim Pool viewer watching this, it's not far-fetched to assume you'd believe what Tim is suggesting as a not just plausible, but likely outcome. In the comments section, you can see that this is the case. All these people are being swept along by the excitement of an incoming Hillary Clinton nomination that Tim, through his reporting, has conveyed as all but guaranteed. But, despite the whole narrative we've just seen Tim build, through his arguments, through the evidence he presented, through the absolute confidence with which he conveyed everything, in the same video, there are random moments where Tim, inexplicably, scrambles back to the fence and steps away from the bold claims that he himself has portrayed as an inevitability.
Look, man, let me be real. I'm not entirely convinced she will run. So I gotta be honest, I'm leaning towards, I really don't think Hillary Clinton will run. At this point, it's too late. I don't think she'll be running. I don't necessarily want to read through all of this other rehashed speculation about what's going on.
So, in the same video where we have Tim saying that the establishment are planning to run Hillary Clinton, that the polls show them gearing up to do this, and there is a guaranteed monologue Hillary will drop when she announces her candidacy ahead of the Iowa or New Hampshire primary, in a stunning turn of events, Tim declares that, actually, none of what he said will actually happen. He doesn't think there'll be a Hillary Clinton run. It's too late anyway. He doesn't want to speculate on these things. All of this, the passionate argument...
The whole thing is wild. You give him too much credit, he's just an idiot. I don't give him too much credit, not me. The millions and millions and millions of people who follow him and get their information from him give him too much credit. Those are the people who give him way too much credit. Not me. It's not me doing it.
Church on Sunday, and they ban you. Like, TikTok's nuts. But what do we expect from TikTok? Instagram and Facebook? It's fake. Oh, heavens, I wish it weren't true. Oh, why didn't we push back? He was in on the take. They got caught. He's getting sued into oblivion. He can't win. Donald Trump is leading, is the front runner. Now, don't get me wrong. It's a bit of a toss-up right now. No one really knows.
There it is. There it is. Yep, he just did it. There it is. He literally just did it. Zuckerberg knows he's lost. He knows he lost, and he's done. Trump is the front runner. He's about to win, and he knows that he is fucked. Could be wrong. You know, maybe Trump doesn't win. Hey, polls are up and down.
It's happening. But a lot of people expect that Trump is winning the argument. We'll see if that matters for his shadow campaign. And Mark Zuckerberg appears to be scared. I put it this way. I think Mark Zuckerberg's real game is he's trying to play it both ways. He's trying to hedge his bets and make sure that if Donald Trump wins...
It's wild that somebody would hedge their bets and play it both ways, huh? I don't know people who do that sort of thing. That's strange.
He can say, you know, look, I was a victim of this too, and I'm trying to help. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. And Mark Zuckerberg has the power to alter elections in this country. So does Google. But Zuckerberg more so than most. And I don't believe him for a second that he is upset about this. He's probably sitting back being like, he goes to his lawyers and he says, tell me what I need to say. You think he actually wrote this letter? I don't think so. For those that missed it, here's the letter that was sent out to Jim Jordan. He wrote, I appreciate the committee's interest in content moderation on online platforms. As you are aware, Meta has produced thousands of documents as part of our investigation and made a dozen employees available for transcribed interviews. Further to our cooperation with your investigation, I welcome the opportunity to share what I've taken away from this process. There's a lot of talk right now around how the U.S. government interacts with companies like Meta. And I want to be clear about our position. Our platforms are for everyone. We're about promoting speech and helping people connect in a safe and secure way. As part of this, we regularly hear from governments around the world and others with various concerns around public discourse and public safety. In 2021, senior officials from the Biden administration, including the White House, Come on. Like, what do you think the Biden administration means? Repeatedly pressured our teams for months to censor certain COVID-19 content, including humor and satire, and expressed a lot of frustration with our teams when we didn't agree. Ultimately, it was our decision whether or not to take the content down, and we own our decisions, including COVID-19 related changes we made to take content down. We made to our enforcement in the wake of this pressure. I believe the government pressure was wrong, and I regret that we were not more outspoken about it. I also think we made some choices that, with the benefit of hindsight and new information, we wouldn't make today. Like I said, our teams at the time, like I said to our teams at the time, I feel strongly that we should not compromise our content standards due to pressure from any administration in either direction. And we're ready to push back if something like this happens again. In a separate situation, the FBI warned us about a potential Russian disinformation operation about the Biden family and Burisma in the lead up to the 2020 election. Let me just pause real quick and break down what he's actually saying. Mark Zuckerberg is saying that the FBI criminally colluded with Joe Biden for his criminal actions.
Where is he getting all of these words from? Where is he getting all of this from? Where did he get criminal from? Where did he get colluded from? Where is this coming from? Well, this didn't happen. That was not in there. That is not being said. I don't know what he's talking about. He just adds so much ad-libbing. I don't get this guy, dude. He just makes it up.
Were crimes they committed, and the FBI was in on it. Holy crap, Mark, grow some balls and come out and say we are under duress from a criminal organization operating within the federal government to cover up the crimes of the Biden administration. You know why he won't do it? Because he's a loser.
No, because it didn't happen. That's why. Because it didn't happen. That's not what happened at all. It is, I'm not even sure what Mark's doing here when he's talking about them pressuring him and all of this. It doesn't make sense. He either lied before or he's lying now. This is what he said in the first place.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
When we take down something that we're not supposed to, I mean, that is like, I mean, that's the worst. I mean,
How
that's
do you
like,
discern?
I think it's generally good to have some kind of separation of powers where you're architecting the governance so that way you have different stakeholders and different people who can make these decisions, and it's not just like one private company that's making decisions even about what just happens on our platform.
How do you guys handle things when they're a big news item that's controversial? Like there was a lot of attention on Twitter during the election because of the Hunter Biden laptop story. The New York
we
Post.
had that too.
Yeah, so you guys censored that as well?
So we took a different path than Twitter. I mean, basically the background here is the FBI, I think, basically came to us, some folks on our team, and was like, hey, just so you know, like you should be on high alert. We thought that there was a lot of Russian propaganda in the 2016 election. We have it on notice that basically there's about to be some kind of dump of that's similar to that. So just be vigilant. So our protocol is different from Twitter's. What Twitter did is they said you can't share this at all. We didn't do that. What we do is we have, if something is reported to us as potentially misinformation, important misinformation, we also have this third-party fact-checking program because we don't want to be deciding what's true and false. And for I think it was 5 or 7 days when it was basically being determined whether it was false, the distribution on Facebook was decreased, but people were still allowed to share it. So you could still
5 to 7 days. Remember this. 5 to 7 days. This is what everybody freaks out about. 5 to 7 days. This is, I've said over and over, it was about a week that I think Twitter had it down. And you can see that during that week that there was a ton of internal strife, people fighting, people arguing in emails. We've already seen these come out in the Twitter files, that there were a bunch of people who were unsure whether or not this was the right thing. And they were having healthy debates and back and forths where it wasn't just this. No, the government said that's final. It was, well, I don't know. Should this be our action? Is this the best route? Well, maybe not. Let's talk about it. And there was a lot of back and forth on this. And then even in the email that we just read from Mark Zuckerberg to Jim Jordan's, that he's saying the same thing, that, yeah, we had a lot of back and forth. We had a lot of fights about this. And we're deciding to come to our own conclusions on these things.
still share it. You could still consume it.
So when you say the distribution is decreased,
It got shared.
How does that work?
It basically, the ranking in newsfeed was a little bit less. So fewer people saw it than would have otherwise. So it definitely.
By what percentage?
I don't know off the top of my head, but it's meaningful. But I mean, but basically, a lot of people were still able to share it. We got a lot of complaints that was the case. Obviously this is a hyper political issue. So depending on what side of the political spectrum, you either think we didn't censor it enough or censored it way too much. But we weren't sort of as black and white about it as Twitter. We just kind of thought, hey, look, if the FBI, which I still view as a legitimate institution in this country, it's like very professional law enforcement, they come to us and tell us that we need to be on guard about something, then I want to take that seriously.
Did they specifically say you need to be on guard about that story?
No, I don't remember if it was that specifically, but it was.
No, he says. No, it was not that specific story that they warned us about. They just said there was going to be some dump of Russian misinformation. We decided that it was about that story. We decided that we thought it was the Hunter Biden story.
basically fit the pattern.
When something like that turns out to be real, is there regret for not having it evenly distributed and for throttling the distribution of that story?
What do you mean evenly distributed?
I mean, evenly in that it's not suppressed. It's
I see.
not.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because it turned out after the fact. I mean, the fact checkers looked into it. No one was able to say it was false, right? So basically, it had this period where it was getting list distribution. So yeah, I mean, but I think I think it sucks though. I think in the same way that probably having to go through like a criminal trial but being proven innocent in the end sucks. Like, it still sucks to.
So here he's saying they didn't tell him that that they had to censor the story. They just said there's likely going to be a drop of Russian disinformation. They didn't tell him that the information was the Russian, they didn't tell him that the Russian disinformation was the Hunter Biden story. And he says here that they didn't do this black and white censoring that that Twitter did, but that they just lowered it in the algorithm. And from what I've read, that the main thing was just that if you weren't friends with them, you were less likely to see it. But that if you were friends with them, that the percentage just kind of stayed the same. Here, he says they did tell us it was about the Biden family and Burisma. In the lead up to the 2020 election, that fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving the Democratic presidential nominee, Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. It's since been made clear that the reporting was not Russian disinformation, and in the retrospect, we shouldn't have demoted the story. Okay, so this is just saying that they demoted it. But he says we no longer temporarily demote things in the U.S. while waiting for fact checkers. So, like, I wouldn't say that anything that he says here, where he says they just told us that there might be some Russian disinformation, well, that doesn't sound like pressure. That doesn't sound like they pressured them to do it at all. And it doesn't sound like they specifically said that it was going to be the Russian, or that the Russian disinformation was the Hunter Biden laptop story. It sounds like you just assumed that. But now here, you're saying they specifically told you it was the Hunter Biden story. So it's, which one is true?
Look, man, I'm not going to call Mark Zuckerberg a loser in regards to building a multi-billion-dollar information behemoth. I get it. He's a smart guy, but he's self-interested and he's a coward. He doesn't care about what happens to this planet. He doesn't care about what happens to humanity. He doesn't care about what happens to our people or this country. The only thing this guy's concerned about is that powerful federal interests put the proverbial gun to his head and said, "Dance!" And he said, "Yes, sir." And he did. And now he's concerned with the bifurcation in the U.S. government that Donald Trump may do something similar. The only
He's so hyperbolic and he just makes it up. I have no idea what he's even talking about right now.
problem is justice will be on his side. Let me break this down for you. We got a little bracket in between that sentence and the rest of this letter, which I'll read. Joe Biden, he flew to Ukraine. But hold on. We're going to go back in time. It's now confirmed by the corporate press. Oh, because they have to. Hunter Biden was seeking State Department assistance. There was an investigation into Burisma, into their CEO, Mykola Zlochevsky. Hunter Biden got hired by a Ukrainian energy company. Why? Makes no sense. Dude doesn't speak the language. And they said, oh, but, he's a lawyer and he's American. He's got experience. Get out of here. He's not European. He doesn't speak any of these languages. What is he doing on the board of a Ukrainian energy firm? Surprise, surprise. He needs help from the State Department. Joe Biden flies out and he speaks to the president.
Wait, what? First off, we already know, based on numerous investigations into Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, that Hunter was using his father's name and his father's position to get jobs. Joe wasn't doing that. Joe wasn't the one getting him jobs. That he just got jobs. And that he has been on the board with tons and tons of major corporations before Burisma. With banks, with energy companies, with tons and tons of companies in the past, he has been on boards with lots. So if you want to go all the way back to where he's hired by, what's it called? It's not IBM. It's BNA or something like that. BNI. But when he's hired by the first bank to be an executive and then eventually he's put on the board with them, if you want to complain about that one, fine. But once he has that experience, it makes sense that other companies are going to hire him for the same positions. It makes sense that other companies are going to hire him to do the same sorts of things. It makes sense at that point.
At the time and says, if you don't fire Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor investigating Mykola Zlochevsky, now I'm adding that. What he said was,
I was about to say, that's a fucking lie, dude. That is a lie and a half.
He said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting the $1 billion. And the president at the time says, who are you? You don't have the authority to do that. And he says, call the president and ask him. If you got, he looks at his watch, you got 6 hours. If the prosecutor's not fired, you're not getting the money.
Right.
Well, SOB, that's what Biden says. He was fired. And they put in someone solid. This was a crime. Joe Biden does not have the authority to withhold congressionally approved loan guarantees to a country in exchange for a political favor that he is seeking, which is the firing of Viktor Shokin. Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor.
Where did he get this from? Political favor. Where did that come from? This is money that was congressionally approved as foreign aid for Ukraine. And it was money that was used by the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, and the EU. Sorry. After Poroshenko got put in charge in Ukraine, Joe Biden was assigned by the United States to work with Poroshenko to root out corruption within the country. That was his job. He was the head of this task force in Ukraine to root out the corruption. That was before his son even worked for Burisma. His son didn't even work for Burisma or work in Ukraine yet. Viktor Shokin, the prosecutor who was looking into Hunter Biden's company, Burisma, Viktor Shokin was investigating them in 2014 and closed, or sorry, maybe 2013, but he closed his case at the beginning of 2014. He didn't continue investigating them and left it alone. No investigation was happening at the time that Joe Biden did this. There was no investigation happening. Nobody has any evidence that there was an investigation. None whatsoever. There is no evidence to this. Everybody in Viktor Shokin's office have all said we were not investigating Burisma, and Hunter Biden was not part of the investigation whatsoever. The crimes that we were investigating them for happened before Hunter ever even worked there. So none of this had anything to do with Hunter whatsoever. None of it. Numerous investigations into Viktor Shokin found that he was corrupt, that he had tons of diamonds, that he was like dealing black market stuff in the background, that he was taking bribes to stop investigating people. And part of the problem was that Burisma was corrupt and that he wasn't investigating them. That was one of the reasons they got rid of Viktor Shokin. So when they tell him, hey, Congress has already backed this idea for us to withhold aid. The IMF says they're not giving you their money. The EU says they're not giving you their money. All of them are refusing to give you their money. And they came to me, Joe Biden, the guy who is in charge of rooting out corruption here. And they told me to represent them and say that they are not giving you the aid. We already know this. We already know this shit. It's all proven. We know this. But they keep going with this false information. They just keep making it up as they go. It's all bullshit. They don't know what they're talking about. And if they had just looked it up just once, just looked into one of the investigations from the House, from the Senate, from anybody, they would know that the story that Tim is peddling right now is completely made up.
Signed a sworn affidavit that this was because he was investigating Mykola Zlochevsky. Zlochevsky had fled the country. The CEO of Burisma fled the country when he was under investigation. After the prosecutor got fired, and as Joe Biden says, they put in someone solid.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about that? While Viktor Shokin had not been investigating Burisma for the last year, when Joe Biden asked for him to be fired, you know what's really interesting about this is the prosecutor that was solid, that they replaced him with, did investigate them and did charge them as well. It's crazy, isn't it? It's crazy that they just did this whole thing and got rid of the guy who was not charging them and who was not investigating them. And then they put in place a new guy who did investigate them and who did charge them. That's nuts. It's a really good plan. Really, the solid guy is the guy who ended up charging Burisma. Wow. Great plan. That's corruption. Oh, it's so illegal. So illegal.
Zlochevsky returns to the country. This was the game they were playing. They were actually going after a corrupt individual or, presumed corrupt individual. And Hunter Biden was worried about what this meant for his paycheck. But this is why they hired Hunter Biden. Mark Zuckerberg, a criminal element of the FBI, that's what he's saying. That's literally what's going on here. Came to him and said, there's going to be misinformation about Burisma. We want you to take care of it. Here's what he goes on to say. That fall, when we saw a New York Post story reporting on corruption allegations involving then Democratic presidential nominee Joe Biden's family, we sent that story to fact checkers for review and temporarily demoted it while waiting for a reply. The only problem is all these corporate outlets started running these fake stories. 50 intelligence agent says the story is all the hallmarks of fake news. The Biden family and Burisma. Here's the reality. Criminal elements in the U.S. government were in on the take. They're a part of this conspiracy. Yeah, I got no problem saying it because it's confirmed fact now. Joe Biden flew to Ukraine and said that he would withhold loan guarantees unless they fired a prosecutor who happened to be investigating the CEO of the company where his son was working. You want to call it at bare minimum a conflict of interest? Sure. But we know that Hunter Biden was asking for assistance in this regard.
No, actually, none of that is confirmed fact. So, Biden family investigation. This is when they started the investigation. The Oversight, Judiciary, and Ways and Means Committee releases report on impeachment inquiry finding Joe Biden has committed impeachable conduct. So this is where they go over why they want to go through some sort of process of impeachment. This is the third investigation, by the way. 2 other investigations already found no evidence of him doing anything wrong. Two into the same thing already. So Republican inquiry finds no evidence of wrongdoing by Biden. The report delivered on Wednesday appeared to be little more than a rehashing of unproven allegations that echoed a Russian disinformation campaign. Rehashed. They've already done it. They've already done the investigation. They did it again, still came up with no evidence. This time, when they come out with this report, they don't show any evidence. They show absolutely no evidence here that he did anything wrong. They just make a bunch of claims again. And they've done this numerous times where they start an investigation, they just make a bunch of claims. No evidence. This one's supposed to have evidence. Executive summary. The Constitution of the United States entrusts the House of Representatives. Let me move this. The Constitution of the United States entrusts the House of Representatives with the sole power of impeachment. When confronted with the evidence that the President of the United States may have engaged in treason, bribery, or other high crimes and misdemeanors, it is the House's responsibility to conduct an impeachment inquiry and, when appropriate, prepare articles of impeachment. In accordance with this obligation and pursuant to direction from the House, the Committee on Oversight and Accountability, the Committee on the Judiciary, and the Committee on Ways and Means have been conducting an inquiry to assess whether sufficient evidence exists that President Joseph R. Biden Jr. engaged in impeachable conduct. As described, As described in this report, the committees have accumulated evidence demonstrating that President Biden has engaged in impeachable conduct. The committees have prepared this report to inform the House on the evidence gathered to date. First and foremost, overwhelming evidence demonstrates that President Biden participated in a conspiracy to monetize his office of public trust to enrich his family. Among other aspects of this conspiracy, the Biden family and their business associates received tens of millions of dollars from foreign interests by leading those interests to believe that such payments would provide them access to and influence with President Biden. As vice president, President Biden actively participated in the conspiracy by, among other things, attending dinners with his family's foreign business partners and speaking to them by phone, often with being placed on speakerphone by Hunter Biden. For example, in 2014, Vice President Biden attended a dinner for Hunter Biden with Russian oligarch Yelena Baturina. Following the dinner, Baturina wired $3.5 million to Rosemont Seneca Thornton. That's Hunter Biden's shell company, a firm associated with Hunter Biden. Then, months later, as Hunter Biden and his business associates continued to solicit more money from Burisma, Vice President Biden participated in a phone call with Baturina and Hunter Biden, where Vice President told Baturina, "You be good to my boy." Moreover, President Biden knowingly participated in this conspiracy. Based on the totality of the evidence, it is inconceivable that President Biden did not understand that he was taking part in an effort to enrich his family by abusing his office of public trust. The evidence also establishes that the Biden family went to great lengths to conceal this conspiracy. Foreign money was transmitted to the Biden family through complicated financial transactions. The Biden family laundered funds through intermediate entities that broke up large transactions into numerous smaller transactions. Substantial efforts were also made to hide President Biden's involvement in his family's business activities. Do we have anything on this specific part? All right. Evidence suggests Vice President Biden changed official U.S. policy to produce positive outcomes for Burisma, a Ukrainian natural gas company implicated in a years-long corruption investigation. It wasn't even Biden's thing. It wasn't even his thing. It was other investigations that came to this conclusion. The committees have developed a significant body of evidence suggesting the Biden family used Joe Biden's position as vice president to produce positive outcomes for Burisma, a Ukrainian natural gas company, then implicated in a years-long corruption investigation conducted by then Ukrainian prosecutor General Viktor Shokin. Hunter Biden served on Burisma's board of directors from April 2014 until April 2019, which aligns with the part of his father's tenure as vice president, when Joe Biden spearheaded anti-corruption reform efforts in Ukraine. It just doesn't. Vadim Bacharsky, dear Hunter, thank you for inviting me to DC. Yeah, this is just, he says something about meeting his dad. Evidence suggests President Biden took official action at the urging of his son that had affected of benefiting Burisma. Even after this official action, the blurred lines between Hunter Biden's position on the Burisma board and Vice President Biden's official position as vice president persisted. Soon after, President Obama designated Vice President Biden as his point man on anti-corruption reform in Ukraine. Hunter Biden was appointed to Burisma board of directors. Yeah, this is how is it that Hunter Biden became a board member of Burisma? Hunter Biden became board member because when I started my tenure there, we hired him as counsel, quite frankly, and then he was counsel, and that went on for, I don't know, maybe 2 months, and then he developed a relationship with Vadim Mikola, and I think they had a different design. There was a meeting in Lake Como. Yeah, this doesn't say anything. He went to help alleviate the pressure on Burisma. Its owner, Mykola Zlochevsky, faced from Prosecutor General Viktor Shokin. Investigation into the company. This phone call appears to have sparked Vice President Biden to condition a third $1 billion U.S. loan guarantee on Prosecutor General Shokin's firing. What? A third? This is the first time they've actually mentioned that the U.S. was only a third of the $1 billion guarantee. I've never seen anybody else actually admit that the U.S. was only contributing a third to this. They don't mention the IMF. Huh. Yeah, I'll have to read through all of that sometime. Because, yeah, I mean, this is, it says the investigation by the Republican-controlled Senate Homeland Security and Finance Committees concluded in September 2020 that Hunter Biden cashed in on his father's name to close lucrative business deals around the world, but that there was no evidence of improper influence or wrongdoing by Joe Biden. This is the Republican-controlled Senate Homeland and Security and Finance Committee's investigation. That's theirs. Then there's the Lav Pernis testimony. At the initiation of committee Democrats on March 20th, 2024, Parnas testified before the Republican-controlled House Oversight Committee investigation into the Biden family that was pursuing the impeachment of President Joe Biden. Parnas stated that he was tasked by Giuliani with finding dirt on the Bidens to spread misinformation about them, but he was unable to find evidence of Biden corruption in Ukraine, he testified. Then this says Joe Biden's former national security advisor explains what actually happened between former vice president and Ukraine. Shokin was clogging up the system such that corruption cases couldn't go forward because they'd get stuck in a file in a drawer in his office, Kahl said. And so the sense was not only in the US government, but also in the European Union and the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, that Shokin had become a single point of failure. The notion of getting rid of Shokin didn't emanate from Biden. So it didn't come from Biden, right? Let's see. A search of the men's apartments revealed a scene that looked like a comic heist. Bags full of cash, diamonds, and other precious stones. But that was not the only incriminating evidence. Documents seized at the time indicated that men appeared to have a connection to the top prosecutor in that land, Viktor Shokin. So this was the corruption case that was being done at the time. Police found copies of Shokin's passports, property registration certificates, and even his license to carry firearms. One of the two men it transpired was Shokin's former driver, who had subsequently climbed the ranks behind his boss. The top prosecutor would also depart in March 2016 at the behest of U.S. Vice President Joe Biden. It was an intervention into local politics that would come back to haunt both Biden and Ukraine. Shokin's gear atop the prosecutor's office was for a long time remembered simply as the time of the diamond prosecutors. All that changed with the intervention of Donald Trump. The American president's description of Shokin's as that very good prosecutor quoted in his now infamous 25th of July call with President Vladimir Zelensky certainly surprised most Ukrainians. For the former prosecutor, it was a chance to rehabilitate himself. The wild conspiracy theory on which Trump based his assertion that Joe Biden had Shokin removed to stop him investigating wrongdoing in his son's gas company has already been widely debunked. So, yeah, this is Shokin said, I was forced out because I was leading a wide-ranging corruption probe into Burisma Holdings, where Hunter Biden was a member of the board, the statement reads. Yet the image of Shokin as a crusading independent prosecutor is inconsistent with the picture given by half a dozen former colleagues interviewed for this piece. Unanimously, they described Shokin as a dependent creature, a man made in the image of whoever was his patron at the time. In 3 terms in office, Shokin served 3 presidents as either deputy prosecutor or chief prosecutor. He made himself useful to all 3, the sources say. He made himself especially indispensable to Poroshenko, with whom he has been linked since at least 2001. So the investigations into Shokin, proving that he had ties with tons of other people who were also corrupt, finding tons of diamonds and stuff all over the place. This is what led to him getting ousted. This is what led to the IMF and the EU saying, hey, Biden, we want you to get rid of this guy. Will you represent us and say that we're not going to give our aid to Ukraine anymore unless they get rid of him? Because we told them we're only going to give them money if they're getting rid of corruption. Lack of aggression was a description many would use for Shokin's approach to the job in his 3rd spell. 2 of the people interviewed for this article described the former chief prosecutor as lazy and uninterested in real investigations. Others noted a penchant for bonding with oligarchs over vodka in the bathhouse. The approach of Shokin's office to the Burisma investigations fell into a well-practiced pattern of corruption, the anonymous prosecutor says. By the time of the Biden's intervention, there were no active investigations to speak of. No active investigations to speak of. So we got the word of 12 people versus Shokin. That's it. And then tons of investigations international investigations from other countries, leading to them wanting him ousted. Investigations into Burisma, which only ever covered the period from before Hunter Biden's involvement in the company, were finally settled in 2016. Wait, but Shokin was ousted in 2015. Why were they settled in 2016? An audio recording purporting to be of Petro Poroshenko in conversation with another gas tycoon acting as mediator offered some clues as to the sequencing. In it, the two men talk about a global solution to Burisma's problems, redirecting cash flows to Poroshenko's companies. Whoa, that's crazy. Serhiy Harbatyuk, I don't know how to say that, who headed the Special Investigation Department, which was eventually given responsibility for investigating the Euromaidan crimes, clashed with the leadership of General Prosecutor's Office. By the time Joe Biden arrived in Kiev in December 2015 to issue his infamous ultimatum, Shokin had lost the support of all but 3.5% of Ukrainians. So everybody wanted him ousted. Everybody. First among them, I don't want to read that part. So yeah, anyways, this is like, there's tons and tons and tons of investigations with tons of facts over this that prove that everything that Tim is saying is just blatantly false.
The FBI's in on it. Goes to Facebook and basically says, you will shut these people up. We will not allow our crimes to be discovered. Now Mark Zuckerberg's worried.
He's just like, yes, he's literally ad-libbing all of this shit. He's ad-libbing all of this. There's no evidence for anything that he's saying here. He's just making all of this up.
He doesn't know who's going to win. There's a grand civil war, but not on the streets, happening between our political elites right now. And if Donald Trump is to win, Mark Zuckerberg might see the other side of some prison bars.
Now, that's a strong claim right there. That's a strong claim. I wonder if he's going to stick to that one, you know?
Maybe not Zuckerberg.
Oh, maybe not. Okay, maybe not. Oh, man, crazy.
I don't know that it's appropriate to arrest him personally, unless he had personal involvement in this, but he's going to be sweating bullets, I assure you. If Joe Biden wins, he's going to have to apologize for these statements. But he kept it light. He didn't say they broke the law or anything. He said, we made the decision ourselves because he's scared. Donald Trump gets elected. Kash Patel might have some DOJ guys show up to his place of business and say, we want to go through all your communications. You can't delete those emails. He's going to get an order, a letter of preservation saying, preserve your documents because we're coming for you. And the brunt of the federal government with unlimited funds is going to weigh down upon you, good sir. And Zuckerberg knows it. Temporarily demoted the story. What's actually happened here, it's beyond just Burisma. This action resulted in Joe Biden actually winning. Think about what went down.
1 week. 1 week. Everybody was still free to read the articles. Everybody was still free to go to other platforms. Everybody was still free to share the information from the New York Times, from CNN, from everybody else talking about this. They were all free to do that. There was just one story from one platform, the New York Post. That's it.
FBI goes to Facebook and says, shut this story down. And Mark Zuckerberg says, yes, my liege.
It's not what happened. Not what happened. They just said there might be some Russian misinformation coming through soon. That's it.
Helping Joe Biden get elected. The criminal himself who flew and offered up the illegal quid pro quo in Ukraine. This is confirmed fact. The media will lie to you about it.
That's not confirmed fact, actually. It's not even close to confirmed fact. There's no evidence to back this up.
Maybe I should pull up the video from the Council on Foreign Relations.
Yeah, he's going to pull up the video of Biden saying, yes, I told them we're not going to give them the money unless they fire the prosecutor. That's not illegal. That's not illegal. That happens all the time. That's perfectly normal.
Joe Biden not getting the $1 billion CFR. Is that what it was? Is it that easy to pull up? Did I just pull it up?
For someone that got a strike on YouTube, I would think you would be anti-censorship. If I was like people like Tim, who just changed my positions based on whatever it is that's convenient to me, you'd be correct. But I've been banned on YouTube. I've been banned on Twitch. I've been banned on Discord. I've been banned on Instagram. I have 2 strikes on Facebook. I'll probably get banned there soon. But I don't change my positions just based on what's convenient to me. I've never done this before. Not going to do it now, so.
Yeah. Foreign Affairs issue lunch with former President Joe Biden from the Council on Foreign Relations. Here's the video.
Well, good afternoon.
It's an hour long, and they have the whole transcript here. Let's just pull up the $1 billion quote. So they said they were going to they were walking into a press conference. I said, "Nah, I'm not going, or we're not going to give you the $1 billion." They said, "You have no authority. You're not the president." The president said, "I said, call him." Laughter. I said, "I'm telling you, you're not getting the $1 billion." I said, "You're not getting the $1 billion. I'm going to be leaving here," and I think it was about 6 hours. I looked at him and said, "I'm leaving here in 6 hours. If the prosecutor is not fired, you're not getting the money." Well, SOB. He got fired. And they put in place someone who was solid at the time. Well, so they made some genuine substantial changes institutionally and with some people. But one of the 3 institutions, there's now some backsliding. Indeed. That's Joe Biden admitting it. Now, the Democrats and the corporate press will lie to you, and they'll say, no, that was in line with U.S. foreign policy, in line. Doesn't matter. The vice president does not have the authority to...
What do you mean it doesn't matter? What is wrong with you? What is wrong with him? How is he this stupid? How is he this stupid? What do you mean it doesn't matter? It does matter. We have fucking checks and balances, you fucking retard. We have people who are in charge of this. The Congress is in charge of deciding where funds go. They're in charge of the aid to foreign countries. Like, they're in charge of this. They decide whether or not this is allowed. Trump got in trouble for quid pro quo because Congress had decided on funds to go to Ukraine, and Trump withheld them without telling Congress. That's how the investigation started in the first place, is he is not allowed to do that. He is not allowed to just make decisions to undo what it is that Congress already voted on. He cannot do that. That totally undoes our entire system of 3 branches of government checking each other. He cannot just do whatever he wants. He is allowed to negotiate with that money, but it has to get approved by Congress. He did not do that. Biden and Obama did. That's the difference. That's the difference. But nobody actually, people like Tim, he knows nothing about our government. He knows nothing about how our systems work. All of these people running around saying this is illegal, that's not allowed, this is quid pro quo. Quid pro quo is not illegal. Quid pro quo just means something for another thing. That's it. It's just a trade. That's quid pro quo. Like, I can't take these people, dude. I can't take these people. They're insane.
Threaten to withhold congressionally approved loan guarantees. This is a quid pro quo. That means something for something. He said, I am going to obstruct congressionally approved loan guarantees from the executive branch with no authority, not even the president, unless you fire a prosecutor. And they did.
No, it did have authority. Where is he getting this from? He didn't have authority from the president. What is he talking about? Where is he getting this from? He's just making this up. The fact that there's already been 2 investigations into this from the House means their probably first thought that they had was, you know what, let's go check and see if he had permission from Congress to do this. Let's go see if he was allowed to do this. It's probably the first thing they did in their investigations.
And the prosecutor said that's why they did. And they told him it was because of Burisma. He signed a sworn affidavit. Ukraine is not an ally of this country. Ukraine is an enemy of these United States. They've invaded Russia, and now they're putting us at the brink of World War III. And it is the crackpot evil of the Democrats. And don't get me wrong, the neocons who jumped to the Democratic Party when Trump got elected that are trying to incite massive international conflict for their crackpot reasons. But anyway, ultimately, the letter goes on to say, apart from this, the Chan Zuckerberg initiative donated lots of money. It was supposed to be neutral, he says. Supposed to be neutral, he says. The reality is Mark Zuckerberg was deeply involved in the game. Everybody knows about Zuckerbucks and the funding he made. He's scared now because he decided to take sides with a criminal enterprise. What Joe Biden did was illegal. That's just it. And he gloated and laughed about it. And these people cheer him on. He cannot do this. The funny thing is, you want to know why I say it's illegal?
He hasn't even named a crime yet, dude. He just keeps saying, and that's illegal. None of that's a crime. Like, name a fucking crime at some point, dude. Name something that's actually criminal. Do you know how many documents the executive branch is still stonewalling Congress on in the impeachment matter? But yeah, ignore that interference. What are you talking about? Like, how many documents the executive branch is still stonewalling Congress on in the impeachment? I have no idea what you're talking about.
Illegal? Because they claimed Donald Trump did just that. They said Donald Trump threatened to withhold loan guarantees unless they investigated Joe Biden, which he's not allowed to do because
Congress approves the funds, and he didn't tell Congress, and Joe Biden did, or Obama did.
approved loans. That's funny. Joe Biden is on video admitting to doing the same thing. If you want to play the game that they're both guilty,
No, he's not. He didn't say anywhere in there. We never got permission from Congress. He's just lying.
then sure, whatever, I guess. Why isn't Joe Biden in jail? Why didn't they go after Joe Biden? Why wasn't he impeached? You can impeach someone after they leave. You can be impeached as vice president. Then once he is, he can be criminally convicted. Why not? That's the game they're playing. They arrest Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro. Merrick Garland walks. Nothing happens. That's the reality. I always want to make sure I show the Time Magazine Shadow Campaign article for the people who just don't quite understand what's going on. They wrote it. Molly Ball wrote it.
They wrote it.
A weird thing happened after the November 3rd elections. It's February 4th, 2021. They said
How many times has he read this article? I swear, he's probably read this 1,000 times.
conspiracy was unfolding behind the scenes, coordinating the resistance from CEOs, activist groups, a pact with unions. It was a handshake between business and labor. And what was it? It was to stop Trump. For Trump and his allies were running their own campaign to spoil the election. Yep. So they admit it. They call
No, like, again, none of this is illegal. He's just talking about the most normal stuff of all time. He's so
it a
strange.
conspiracy. They call it a shadow campaign. No joke.
Ooh, it sounds bad.
It's admitted. Now, don't get me
They
wrong.
admit
Every
it.
villain can paint their picture. Everyone's the hero of their own story.
Mm.
But I'll put it this way. We've all seen Star Wars.
Oh,
What's Star Wars about? The first one. Well, if you watch the movie, it's about a kid.
it's about fascists, religious fanatics called Jedis who are fighting against the liberal democracy that is the Enterprise. And they are Darth Vader and all of the people within the wait, it's not the Enterprise, is it? Is it the Enterprise? Am I thinking of this right? Anybody there? Yeah, I didn't think it was Star Wars. What is it? What? Okay, you can tell me that's not it. What is it? What is the answer? I'm about to ban all of you. All of you are getting banned. Every single one of you. You're all getting banned. The Empire. Okay, thank you. The fucking Empire. The liberal empire is trying to stop these religious fanatics, these religious nationalists from getting their way. And they're terrorists. They're literally running around blowing up cities, blowing up spaceships, killing tons of people everywhere they go. It's disgusting. That's what Star Wars is about.
Who grows up on a desert planet. They're humidity farmers. I think that's what it was. They're harvesting water in the desert. And Imperial troops murder his family, looking for him. He escapes and joins a ragtag bunch that has to stop the evil empire. That's how the movie is framed. But, of course, depending on how you depict the characters in it, you can make them either good or evil. In the real world, there's no evil cult space wizard who chokes people for no reason. You know, you look at this scene where Darth Vader...
But there is like a president who attempts to commit a coup and hold on to power and refuses to give it up and spreads conspiracy theories about the election being stolen so that his followers all charge into the Capitol and delay the certification of the vote for the first time. And then there's the first time that a president has ever chosen his own electors and tried to replace legitimate slates of electors with fake slates of electors and just tries to take over the entire U.S. government, stuff like that. You know, just it doesn't really happen. Never really. It's not a thing.
Is talking to the guy, and the guy's like, we don't need your superstitious old religion, and then he chokes the guy. Imagine like a bunch of generals sitting in the Situation Room, and then like Millie gets up and just strangles a guy. Like that doesn't happen, even though they are the warmongering psychopaths. That doesn't happen. The reason I bring that up is
I'm surprised he doesn't believe that happens. As much as he's been making out this entire show, I'm surprised he doesn't believe in
frame it
that.
another way. a child indoctrinated by a religious zealot takes a cargo ship and blows up a military base. You can frame things however you want. The funny thing about this is that's what they're doing with this story. Time magazine literally says there was a conspiracy behind the scenes to save the election from Trump. Yeah, that sounds like a criminal conspiracy. That sounds like you're the bad guys. But they'll frame it how they want to frame it. No. It was the extremists. That was Trump. Yeah. Not everybody's innocent, my friends, but it's stupid to believe that you could publish a story so egregious like this and that these people aren't complicit.
He literally, it's all just optics for him. They said shadow campaign, therefore bad. But there's nothing bad in this. I've read this article numerous times. There's nothing bad in there. There's nothing illegal. There's no conspiracy going on. It's just people who are campaigning, who are protesting, who are putting out commercials, who are putting out ads, and who are trying to make sure that people know the truth about Donald Trump. That's what it's about. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about activists. They're talking about lobbyists. They're talking about people who put tons of money into campaigns. That's what they're talking about. None of this is illegal. This is all just normal stuff. But they're talking about the fact that a lot of them did work together to make sure that they were able to get the best outcomes from their efforts. This is normal.
And of course, you look at what we're seeing from Mark Zuckerberg, and we know it's all true. The FBI was colluding behind the scenes to interfere in the election to make sure Joe Biden won. We're now learning that I got to pull this stuff up. I got to pull it up because otherwise people aren't going to. Let me see if we can. What is this? Ex-Honcho McCabe says intelligence agencies going to flee the country. Ex-Honcho McCabe says Intel community members scared of being jailed by Trump may flee the country. It's terrifying, former deputy FBI director said. It's staring you in the face. FBI agents who were part...
It's staring you in the face, guys. They report a couple of facts. We get to add 1,000 more to it. It's obvious.
...of criminal activity. No, they're going to jail. They went to Mark Zuckerberg and said, you got to cover this up or else. Zuckerberg, like a pathetic coward, said, please don't hurt me. And so he did. I mean, look, I can recognize this. It's a tough spot for Zuckerberg. I'll try and be nice. You get the FBI showing up your doorstep, and they're telling you that they're going to destroy you. And they have done some messed up stuff, a lot of messed up stuff. But what do? Zuckerberg says, I can't go up against them. What am I supposed to do? Fine. So he says, okay.